Well, I think we can get started for everybody that got here on time. And I just read from Cindy Biscup, great opportunity here from an amazing leader at Keller Williams and beyond, I'd have to say yes. Thank you so much to Jason for giving us his time. Thanks, Julie and the Fidelity team for making this possible. So what a great comment. And I'm going to introduce Stevie D. For those that don't know, Mr. Steve DeLaviaga and Jeff DeLaviaga, CEO, president of Rise Fidelity. We have a great partnership through him, through Chris Binney, our sponsored lender of this mastermind. And I'll let Steve introduce one of my favorites. Jason, I adore you. Thank you for your time. I am not quiet that you are one of my apps. You are my favorite. So this is recorded. All the rest of the speakers in the world can hear that. You are the man. And Joss on my team, super rock star. Thank you for putting this together for us. Of course, Mr. Stevie D.
Thank you, Jules. We are super excited to have our partners here today. Chris Binney at Empire Mortgage. Chris, you've done an amazing job. We appreciate, how much you love masterminding, so we're able to do this. And Jules, you and your team, as always, thank you, first class. And we do have with us today one of the absolute best real estate minds, I call him, in America. He has been able to do so much in this space. And again, he'll tell his story, those that don't know it, but he graduated with a 2.0 average from high school, been in real estate since he was 18 and a half years old, and has absolutely become one of the best practitioners in this space of anybody in America. So we're going to get to Jason in a second. When you have questions, please put them in the chat area. Jeff's going to monitor the chat and make sure that he has all of our questions answered. Jason and I are going to start off with a few questions that I know people are going to want to know about, things that he's doing now, ways he's got people having their activities in the gap so they can slingshot back into production when this is over. But first, I want to give Chris Binney, who's done a really good job. We were talking this a couple of days ago, Chris. Talk a little bit about the mortgage update, because right now mortgage is becoming more and more critical in order to be able to get deals closed on the resale side. Just give us a quick 2-3 minute mortgage update before we jump into our mastermind, if you could, Chris.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Steve. Jason, it's always great to have you. Brilliant mind. Some of the biggest topics really in the mortgage industry right now is really rates, verifications of employment, overlays, to be honest with you. There's a lot of banks out there that are doing overlays, interest rates bouncing up and down, things like that. But I am starting to see quite a bit of a stabilization out there. I do hear that the forbearance stuff is getting ready to go away, which I think is going to help everybody. I think they're going to put a deadline to that, which should stabilize our rates and our environment quite a bit. Interest rates are still out there, low 3s, high 2s, even on some of the 15-year stuff, which is really good. But really, at the end of the day, for the agents that are on and that are out there, just be careful with your lenders. They need to have something in place, like some kind of directive or practice that they're doing for verifications of employment. If they're not tackling that at the very beginning, just trying to figure out and make sure that our borrowers are going to be employed throughout the process of purchasing a house and not going on, laid off status or anything like that in the 8th and 9th inning type thing. You really want to make sure that they're employed for good, or if they are unemployed, when they're coming back. I mean, unfortunately, all over the country, the comebacks are varied and could be at any point in time. We are actually having some of our restaurants and things like that opening back up here in Vegas. So a lot of our employees are getting back to work. And to be honest, a lot of our borrowers are ready to buy. They weren't out of the buying process. They were just waiting. So I see a huge explosion coming up in the next couple of quarters. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I see. I'm excited for the rest of this year as far as purchasing.
Appreciate it, Chris. As always, thanks for the update. We'll be asking some questions with you throughout, I'm sure. All right, Master Abrams, firstly and foremost, how are you? You safe and healthy? Everything good, my brother?
Very well. Thank you for asking.
All right, so let's jump into this. Now, you and I know we've been doing masterminds now almost 10 years, my brother. We started in 2009, 10, right at the end of that short sale REO stuff. Talk a little bit about how you've been coaching throughout this process, because you've talked a lot about that slingshot arrow, going to just bounce back. Talk about that and what you're coaching people to do in this gap to be ready for the slingshot.
Yeah, I think it will. I think when you, I think of it like a bow and arrow, like you're pulling it back and it's at tension. And this tension that's there is filled with all these people that wanted to do business prior to whatever this is happening. Like, I don't think those people have changed their mind. I don't think 8 weeks sequestered in their home has made them fall in love with that space. I think they still want to move. And, you know, I kind of am thinking about this like I would look at a natural disaster. And when you study natural disasters, you realize that like there's a warning that something is going to happen, then it happens, everything closes down, then there's this kind of period of cleanup and kind of figuring it all out, and then the clouds part and everything starts again. And if you think of it similar to that, and then you can kind of feel where we are in the process, you know that a few things are also guaranteed to happen. Number one, there's going to be, give or take like 9 months from now, a whole bunch of people being born. I mean, this just happens anytime people are sequestered at home. Those people, they're in the bow, they're going to need to move. And then you have some people, and this is sad, but it's true, they're going to reallocate their relationships and they're going to decide that they don't want to be in a relationship. And you always see the divorce rate kind of go up at the tail end of these things. And they're going to be in this bow. And then as much as the federal government, Steve, they'd like to save every small business. And gosh, as a small business owner, I wish that was going to be the case. Unfortunately, it's not. It never is. There's going to be some businesses that go under, and those folks are kind of added to the bow because they might need the right size. And then you got some other people who are like, talk about the right place at the right time. They like make hand sanitizer, and like they're going to want to buy another home, right? And they're in this bow, and at some point this thing opens and it's just going to go. The question that we have as an industry and you have as an individual are whether or not you're going to be the recipient of any of the energy that's being stored in that bow. And you make that choice on a daily basis, not once the bow is snapped, but while it's being drawn back. This is to say that if you're in a market, and I know you guys are, where you can't necessarily go out and capture a ton of market share today, you got to do the next best thing, Steve. And I think that's capturing mind share. Today's mind share becomes the market share of tomorrow.
I love it. And I think, Jason, we grew up through 08, 09, so we understood a small amount of agents did a ton more business. And a lot of agents ended up doing less or getting out of the business. It's the ones that prepared for execution and activity right now. So let's talk. I love how you do this too. We always talk. It's easy to say, tactics when there's no strategy and vice versa. What right now on the database, data bank side are you advocating folks to do? And in Vegas especially, we're starting to see activity. In Phoenix, we're starting to have weeks that are jumping up every single week, near to where our norm was. So walk through a little bit of that so folks can get a flavor for it.
Yeah, well, I think number one, I think that everybody here who's leading a business or a team, you need to cast a 90-day vision immediately for your company. Meaning your 5-year plan might still work, your 1-year plan might work, but you need to have a 90-day plan because all of our 90-day plans have changed. And I often joke about it, but I think Brett Tanner is the lesson there, right? Brett knows if he doesn't know the exact answer, he casts a new vision. And his 90-day vision was do as much studying as you can about the market. Really learn and understand where the holes of it are. My 90-day vision was collect as much mind share as I can. That meant I was going to touch as many people as I could. You're going to decide your vision, but if you don't set a 90-day vision as a leader, I think you've missed out. Then step number 2, I think you get all your people together and you share that vision. Where we go one, we go all, and everyone has to get it. Step number 3, I think that you go through and you meet with each of your people individually and you lay out what's the new chores they're going to have. Said differently, what are the new things they're going to have to do on a daily basis to accomplish that vision? If we have a new vision, we're going to have new tasks. Step 3, I think you then, or 4 rather, you sit back and I think you just write it out. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. What are the big things you're going to accomplish during those time periods? That doesn't mean you don't have to do a ton of stuff. The 3-ring circus that is life still is going to happen. What it does mean, though, is you better know what the big rocks are going to be. What's the top 20%, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Then I think you have to inspect that like crazy. And you taught me this, Steve. You said way back, you said, kid, there's 2 types of communication. There's casual communication and there's formal communication. Casual is when you see someone face to face. You can see them, you can touch them, you can communicate, use all your senses. Formal communication is when we're going to meet at a certain time each week and you're going to report on something. And you said one without the other is no good. And I want you all to know that you've really lost your ability in a big way to have casual communication. And when that happens, you have to ramp up formal communication. You're going to have some more meetings to inspect what you expect. And I'm going to beg you on this one. This isn't just a play to do at work, you guys. This is the play to do at home. If you're running a household, why need you to set a 90-day vision for the household? Because you know what? Your home is now turned into the prayer house. It's turned into the schoolhouse. It's turned into the gym. It's turned into the resort. It's turned into all of these things. And if you don't use this opportunity to talk about goal setting, you don't use this opportunity to teach vision, you don't use this opportunity to get the whole family around you and talk about we tighten our belt when there's uncertainty, then I think as a family leader, you may miss out on a great opportunity.
So well said. And I feel like we did our care calls. We did our database touches. That's been done. Now it's kind of starting to try to reopen. Jason, I've never had as many people. I know you have. We talked on Sunday about this. Everywhere you go, what's the market look like? What do you think in the market? People are dying for our knowledge and advice right now. So please make sure you're giving it to them with data, feature, advantage, benefit. Walk them through that a little bit.
Well, and that's the thing. That's one of the things that I've loved always about doing business with Chris and Empire, right? Was that it's never really been about selling any of my people a mortgage. It's always been about being a consultative approach to making sure that this fits into their financial life. That's when we see the difference. And you know it, Steve. Somebody is going to give the presidential address to your people. You're either going to let the news do it. And by the way, this isn't political. Regardless of what your politics is, there's a 24-hour news station that makes you want to throw up in your mouth right now. And you know what? The connective tissue amongst all of them is that they're all entertainment and they're all for profit. And if that's where you're going to let your people hear their news, here's what happens. They use words that they know sell. They use words like recession. They use words like depression. They use these words, and your customers, what they do is they tie those words to a period of their life where they have human experience. And they say, recession, recession. Oh my gosh, I know what that means. That means that housing values drop by 70%, for sale signs goes up everywhere, and someone steals my air conditioning condenser. I remember this. Like, that's not what recession means. That's what '08 meant, because we had a mortgage-backed securities home recession. This is a lot different. We're not seeing values plummet. We're not seeing these homes get foreclosed. We're not seeing that yet. But in the absence of you giving that presidential address to their people, how are they supposed to know? And so they assume they understand the future. But you know what? Fiduciary actually means caring about someone. It means that when you pick up the phone right now to give a one-to-one market update with your person that's based on data, just like you said, Steve, that's not called lead gen. That's just called love. That's just how we care about people. And the more people you did that with right now, the greater recipient of all of the energy that's coming you'll be.
This is important. If you're listening, pay attention. This is important. This is not '08, '09. We have 74% more equity in homes in Las Vegas than we had in '08, '09. Now, what you do have is a jobs issue. And as we're all finding out, all these people aren't going to be rehired back next month as we casually reopen. Not going to happen. 50% of these workers will not get their jobs back this year. So, difference is they have equity in their homes. So if they have to go someplace for a career restart or something different, they have to go to a place where they can get money. So they're going to transact their property, pull out their equity, so they get runway and time that they can then go find what they're going to do. The realtors that get in front of that niche, that say, hey, if you've lost your job, looking for a new direction, let us help you. We can get you to realize your equity, not just sell your house, but realize your equity so you can make a life adjustment best for you and your family. That is going to happen. In Las Vegas today, under 350, and looking at your trends, under 350 still are bidding wars, multiple offers. Mid-tier is stable, 350 to 550. Luxury's sitting much longer. We've got 17 weeks of inventory now with as high as we've had all year. So those things are going to happen. People are going to start to sell property. Get into those niches now. We talked about, Jason, we talked about non-owner occupieds, right? We talked about folks that need to have runway. What 2 or 3 niches would you be looking at if you're in Las Vegas to dive into if you were going to do this?
I'm going to tell you, but every time I do it, half the mastermind, they look down or they shrug it off or they think that I'm hiding something. But I'm just going to tell you how it is. You start with your past clients immediately. We start with past clients because those are the only things you can't buy in real estate. You can buy leads, you can buy lists. You can't buy past clients. And someone here they said, hey, what are the scripts? I call it the Adele script. Hello, how are you? That's it. Steve, that's the whole script. And I think this is that moment in time when you can actually use that one. It's just about being human. There's a fundamental truth, friends. People do business with people they like. period. We like Chris, we like Julie, we like Steve, we like Jocelyn. We choose to do business with them because we like them. Said differently, people do business with people they trust. Where do you think that trust comes from? Better question, how do you think it's eroded? It's eroded when you don't call at a moment like this. That's, again, not lead gen. That's just called love. And so I would urge you, forget the script. It's not the time to call and say, what are your real estate plans for 2020? It's the time to simply say, hello, how are you? After you get done with your past clients, move directly into your sphere of influence. After you finish with them, how about all those fake friends you have in Facebook? And once you get done there, then start working on strangers. You do it in that order, and please don't overcomplicate this thing, guys. Gary Keller tells me all the time, he says, Jason, in life, everything wants to become more complicated, but all success is found in simplicity. And so what I'm saying to you right now is forget about the number of contacts you're making. It's the wrong time in history to be tracking that. Think about the quality of the contacts. Think about how many people start their day sad but end their day happy that you're in the middle of. That's how people tend to like you. And if you can wake up tomorrow and play a real easy game, how many people like me more today than yesterday? If the answer is 0, you lost. If the answer is 1, you did okay. If the answer is 3, you're gonna be all right. And if the answer is 50, you're on your way to being a mega agent like Tanner and Gubernick and the rest of them.
I love it. And this is important too, like you said. Our answer rates when you're making calls are up 80%. So when you say, hi, how are you? After that, the consumer takes you in one of two directions. I'm okay. Listen, just checking you and your family. You safe? Yeah, we're good. We're okay. We had a scare with our grandmother, but we're fine now. And then we're seeing 35, 40% say, anyway, is this just killing for housing? Is it hard for housing? Well, now if they open the door, then they're asking you to give your knowledge and advice. Please stop sending out a stat sheet and just saying, hey, everybody, here's the market in Vegas. No one gives a shit until you tell them what it means to them. Oh, here's the market in Vegas. Good news is if you're a buyer up to 350 to 750, you've got more choice than ever in the last 5 years. Oh, if you're a seller 350 and below, you've got multiple opportunities. Your house is aggressively being sought after right now by our buyer network. Tell them the advantage and benefit of whatever you give them. Agreed?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Here's the thing. If you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And in a moment like this, talking to everybody actually harms you. This is why it's possible to be sitting right now in Vegas or Arizona and watching news that's happening in New York and feel completely disconnected from it. And by the way, a lot of us have friends in New York. And so emotionally we're connected, but psychologically we're disconnected. That's why you see giant changes between what you think is going on in Main Street and what you see going on Wall Street. And so I would urge you, get really one-to-one right now. This is that moment where the technology really meets the humanity and we become the best rendition of real estate fiduciary. That's my concept of real estate first responders. And here's the idea, right? You're not ever gonna see anybody replace the kind of heroicism that it takes to be a nurse or a doctor or a firefighter or a soldier or a police officer. But real estate as first responders is a real thing, and here's why. The fear that we bring into our life are the things that have terrible toll on our psyche and our bodies. And real estate agents are ninja at helping people deal with fear. When a buyer says to you, yeah, I know we had the home inspection, now I'm scared, that's fear. Or when someone says, yeah, I want to sell, but I should really wait, I don't know what's going on, that's fear. Or when someone says, I know I should stretch, but I'm scared to death of the payment, that's fear. Or when someone says, I don't want to call Chris because I didn't make he's going to see my credit, that's fear. And you know what? Y'all are the best at helping people deal with fear, because here's what you all have figured out. And you taught me this. You guys have said, look, in order to deal with fear, you got to be willing to go through a little bit of pain. And I get that, but on the other side of that pain, that's where freedom lives. How many nurses show up at the hospital tomorrow and start cold calling the people in Las Vegas and telling them that it's going to be okay? Answer is 0. You know why? Because their job isn't to scale out to the community, it's to deal with the people that are brought into them. Real estate agents scale out to the community at a scale not seen in any other industry. Every single person you call and you say, you know what, I know you got a lot to worry about right now. Let me give you one less thing to worry about. The value of your home is not plummeting. Your equity is still there. And as a matter of fact, I'm starting to see a lot of demand. And if you want to talk again in a couple of weeks and I can give you another update, I'm glad to do it. Stop script. Friends, that's just caring. That's called mindshare. That's called fiduciary. That's real estate agents as first responders.
So good. So good. And you know what's funny? I haven't seen you in like 3 months. So that was all new stuff to me. Congratulations. I love that.
It's important, man, because it really pissed me off when I saw some states say that what we do for a living is absolutely mandatory and important and whatever words they want to use. And other states said, you know what, it doesn't really matter that much. And let me just tell you this, when you got 26% of the wealth in this country tied up in the equity in people's houses, real estate agents are the defender of that equity. We're the reason it's there and the protectors to make sure it stays there. And here's the thing. If you shirk the responsibility, what happens to those people? What happens to that money? I've never seen, this is my 21st year, and I've never seen an opportunity like we have today. And you say, wait a minute, he said the opportunity word, and we can't do that because, and yeah, I hear you. It's a terrible thing, and no one would have wished this. And you know what? Everybody that gets sick, my heart goes out to them. And I've actually been making the phone calls to people who have lost family members, and I can tell you it's a really real thing. I can also tell you, though, as business practitioners, I've never seen an opportunity like this. And you know why? Because it's never come to a complete stop before in the history that I've been in the business. This is to say that all of us have tried to make scalable changes to our business during business hours. You try to make a change over the last 15 years, and you know what? It got muted because everyone else was working. This is a dead stop that's going to go to a complete sprint. And this gives, if you're a new agent, you got an opportunity to win. If you're on the rise, you have an opportunity to go faster than ever before. And by the way, if you're a top agent, understand you have a risk of going backwards if you spend this time sitting in your hot tub instead of connecting with each person in your data bank. This is that moment where the phone call you make today is worth 5 or 10 of the calls you made a year ago. It's a moment in time.
I want to give two things. Firstly, a stat. We've had 47 financial crises in the 240 plus years of the USA. Okay? Crises. 9/11, Depression, Great Recession. All 47 have bounced back and been stronger in the next up. So there is going to be opportunity, whether we want to talk about it or not, there is. Number two, here's a tactic for us trying to come in every single morning and get maybe a little routine that makes sense, because simplicity and persistence usually equals success. Do a 5-5-5. Come in and connect 5 ways on the phone, 5 two-way conversations with past clients database sphere with a, hi, how you doing? Just checking on you, thinking about you. Then write 5 handwritten notes to past clients saying, I was just thinking about you. I know things are going on. If you need anything, I'm here. We are considered essential in the state of Nevada. We are going to be working. If you need anything, I'm here for one to let you know. Then the last 5, go on social media and create 5 two-way conversations. No likes, but comments and discussion about something. 15 contacts a morning. Everybody on this phone can do that. And if you did that, it doesn't sound like a lot until you say, well, that's 75 a week. Wow, that's 320 a month. Wow, that's 3,600 a year. That's how you build data bank and mind share in this market. Have a tactic and execute it. All right, Jay, niches. What niches do you see? And Chris Binney and I were talking about this the other day, and he was really smart about it. He's like, hey, there's always niches in Nevada. With this, I don't know if it'll be the short sale REO niche, but what niche are you looking at for Nevada? Is it non-owner occupied? Because now with forbearance, people are thinking they have to pay. What's that look like to you?
Well, somebody here asked if I had just gotten into the business a month ago, what would I do? Great question, by the way. I think that that's actually, it's so unique. You don't realize where you are in history until you have perspective. And I can tell you, if you just got into the business, you should be calling every single person you've ever met and just talking to them. That's what we would tell anybody that got into the business at any point. But right now, you literally have an excuse to do it because everybody is trying to connect with people. That's what I would do, Lucy. I'd call everyone I know. And naturally, those conversations are going to turn into, what are you doing? Which is, hey, I'm in real estate. Oh my gosh, what's going on in the market? What we do is a mystery to people, and they want to better understand it, especially in times like this. As far as niches go, there's a couple of things that I'm looking at. Number one, there's this saying, Steve, that you and I, we heard it in 08 and 09. Everyone said this is going to be the greatest transfer of wealth in your lifetime. That's what they said. And I don't know how, it's like it skipped over my house or something, dude. I don't know. But everyone who says that doesn't actually then tell you how to actually get wealthy during it. And so I'd like to tell you what I've heard, right? And this is the models that I think really matter. Number one, you got to immediately cut your expenses. And you're going to say, Steve, but I asked you about niche. But here's the thing. Opportunity lives on the other side of expense cutting. meaning you got to survive before you're going to thrive. And some of you are thinking, I don't really need to cut my expenses because I can pay my bills. That's dumb. I'm not saying you cut your expenses because you can't afford the stuff. I'm saying you cut the expenses because every dollar you don't spend on convenience and continuity of life is a dollar you then get to invest. And an investment could be a 4 to 10x return at a minimum. And I think every dollar you have today is worth $10 on the other side of this thing. And here's where, once you do it, here's where I see, oh, and for those of you that are sitting out there and you're not sure how to do it, it's the best. Here's all, it's easy. Make a list of all your household expenses, a list of all your business expenses, then drop them into one of 3 buckets. This is the Brian Gubernick, Brett Tanner system. It's the best system there is. Those guys run a company called Metrics Coaching and Training. Check it out because they're brilliant guys. Bucket number 1, that's everything that I absolutely need 100% to run my life for continuity of business. This is your mortgage payment, your MLS dues, all that stuff. I'm not paying it. Bucket number 2, this is everything that you have that you prefer to keep because it makes life better, but you could live without. Like I was paying for XM radio in the car. I don't even remember what color my car is. I'm not paying for it anymore. That's the kind of stuff you just dump. The other thing you do with bucket number 2 is you go down the list and you make sure you're squeezing every ounce of value out of it. If you're going to pay for third-party tech, you better make sure you're squeezing the value out of it. If you're going to pay for data, I use a company called Ivy. I think they're fantastic. The reason I use it is because when I squeeze the data, I get more correct phone numbers and contacts in the better verticals than any other system I've ever used. It's awesome. But
Jay, just to jump in there real quick is Ivy's giving everyone on this call 200 free pulls because you're on it. You've been such a great partner. So everybody here gets 200 free data leads. All they have to do is ask Chris, Jocelyn, or Julie, and we'll send it out to them.
As a current user of that system, I will be getting 200 then as well. That's fantastic. And you squeeze the value out of bucket number 2. Bucket number 3, this is everything you just have because you're rich. And you're like, not me. Yes, you too. Compared to the rest of the world, you're rich. And those are the apps you pay for, the auto renewal, stuff that you cut it today. Now you've got it cut. That means every month you're now getting richer. Now you have money to invest in a niche. And you're either going to invest a niche. You can only do it 2 ways. Number 1, you're investing your time and your dollars. Number 2, you're investing your expertise and your dollars. Here's the difference. I would urge you to keep all of your time right here in residential real estate. This is the business you know. This is the business you need to be working in. Your money and your expertise can go somewhere else. When I say expertise, here's what I mean. I want to give you a bunch of potential ideas. Number 1, the best return you're ever going to get on any dollar is always going to be in the right person that you bring into your life. Anyone who brings a Julie into their life, I promise you, you're not going to make a better investment in anything. That's why people always lead the way in returns. Friends, there's 33 million people that had a job 8 weeks ago that don't have one today. Don't tell me there's not a heck of a lot of talented people on the sidelines right now. You're coming off of one of the most difficult hiring markets in history, and you have a really short-term opportunity with great people. And it's all through our space. Heck, Realtor.com, I think, laid off 100 people the other day. And I know Compass has laid off 15%, and Redfin has laid off 41%. A lot of these people are really talented. I'm not making any judgments on the companies they were at. What I am saying is if you're looking for leverage, you got a lot of people out there. And if you say, I don't even know what I'd be hiring for, cool. How about you just start interviewing? I promise you the right person might pop up. That's number 1. It's the best use of your dry powder. That's a niche. You wouldn't think of it as a niche, but it is. Number 2, I think you're going to see a lot of landlords that have cash flow problems. I don't think you're going to see values getting destroyed, but you're going to see people who didn't plan for this, that don't have the pockets. And if you can bring the management and some liquidity into deals, I think you can come in on the back end and take a lot of pieces of a lot of real estate. I think you see it with the small multifamily stuff and the onesie twosies investors. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I like to hit those through the non-owner occupied, and I like to hit them through the vacant houses. Any landlord that has a vacant anything right now is a now seller. You better believe it.
Well, I think, Jason, too, how you used Ivy was you said you picked 10 zip codes in Detroit where your team operates, and you said, give me every non-owner occupied. Then you got the phone numbers on 88%, and your team just called them. And what was funny was answer rates were north of 78%. People wanted a conversation because they are scared when they're not getting a check for 1 or 2 months. They don't want this to go on, don't know how long. Now, all of a sudden, getting $50,000 out in cash is a good equity move to sell it, correct?
That's exactly right. And you also, those of you, and I don't know exactly how your court system works, but a lot of the courts are still closed, but a lot of the people can still bring suit, meaning they can issue their notices. There's a great list, that 7-day notice list that's still floating around out there. Anyone that's given out that notice that's still 60 to 90 days away from any kind of liquidity relief is a perfect partner for you, or someone that might just want to ring that bell and tap out. The next thing I really like, and I think you're going to see opportunity in it, long term, we've already done people and we've already now done the investors. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the market still. This is to say that anytime you have a change in consumer behavior, you can pick winners and losers in companies. And I think in our industry specifically, the consumer always gets what they want. On a long enough timeline, they always do. If COVID has done anything, it's just hastened that arrival of those things. And here's what they want. And I'm open to disagreement on this. Number one, they want to look at less homes physically, but more of the right ones. Number two, they want a more seamless transaction. And ideally, they'd like to use their cell phone for the whole thing. They don't want to log into 13 places to do a deal. Number three, they don't want an on-demand realtor, but they want what they want on demand, which means you have to think of a way to be available to respond in real time. And number four, all of this gets back to people do business with people they like. The niche right now, and it's better than it's ever been in my lifetime, is to be able to show people you care about them in real time. And the amazing thing is that this pandemic has lowered the bar. Meaning, in a boom, it's really hard to show anyone that you care because everyone's running so fast. This is that moment in time where you can literally rekindle a long-lost relationship with nothing more than a phone call or a text message. It's so unique.
I love it. So recapping, people first as a way to put dollars in and invest. What are your thoughts on top of funnel? Because you're right. You've got Google, Facebook, you've got Realtor.com, Zillow. All leads are being reduced right now. Would you spend any money in that top of funnel stuff? Yes or no?
I think it depends. If you can look up and you can tell me that you haven't been ignoring your past clients and sphere of influence, then yeah, play the game. Raise your hand if you got past clients you haven't spoken to in the last 120 days on the phone. If your hand is up, then you don't need to buy any new leads because you've been ignoring the ones you have. And that's embarrassing. And you can turn it all around right now. If you look up and you say, you know what, I don't have any past clients or any sphere of influence that I haven't spoken to in the last 120 days, then you have a different question, which is how do I get more people into my data bank right now to start loving on them over time? And if that's the question you're asking, then you got to look out and find some different ways to bring new people in. And of course, one of those ways is always going to be pay-per-click.
Yeah, good. All right. A couple of things. Let's talk about this a little bit. I know with you, you started off a single agent, you were killing it, then you just got to a stage where your life was just so crazy and you realized, man, I can't go on every appointment. I can't put in every lockbox. I can't fix every problem. I can't answer 200 calls a day. Walk through the process from single agent, then building into having a little bit of an admin, and then maybe even looking at a team model. Those folks might want to look at doing this as we transition into this marketplace.
Yeah, for me, by the way, I looked up after a series of failed type launches and then realized that I was a really good salesperson and I was really good at setting the vision, but I hadn't filled my mind with the kind of information that I needed to be a business owner. I also looked up and saw my path to doing that was so opaque and obscure that I actually went out and found a business partner. I found a guy named Brian Gubernick, and I actually took less of that business because I knew that the sum of his whole, my part would be worth more. And the same thing happened to me again when I met Brett Tanner, and those guys are just great business people. But here are the lessons that I've watched, and here's what I've learned from them. Number one, there's no one that's ever going to set a vision for your business better than you will. Meaning that has to be where you start.
You can't outsource vision, can you? You're not possible. You have to own it.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't own it, then unknowingly you outsource it to everybody who's not qualified to provide it. Because everyone around you starts to set one. By the way, and this is going to be weird, the same thing happens at home. Like if you don't set a vision, someone else in the house does. Some of us have ended up with our 7-year-old that sets it. Let me just tell you, you wake up one day and you say, how did this happen? Like, and that's, that's part of the journey of life and business. You'll find, at least I have, that the path of a successful business kind of leads to the personal growth of that business's owner. And so when you set the vision, and you look up, that's step one. And here's the way that you do it, I think. It's easy. It's step by step. You got to know where you are today. So just simply make a list. Here's how many units I sell. Here's how much volume I'm using. Here's the different pieces of technology I am. And then break it down. Make a list of every transaction you do and then cite the source. Open house, referral, and figure out what your top 3 sources of business are. Then ask the next question. Where do I want to be in 5 years? And don't fight the urge to limit that. Most people overestimate the short term and then underestimate what they can accomplish in the long term. And friends, you can be anywhere you want on this planet within 5 years. It's an infinite amount of time when used properly. And you may be squandering yours. Once you know where you want to go, the next step is simply lodging in the dominoes along the way that would have to happen such to accomplish it. And then in my experience, it's been finding 2 people to go on that journey with you. Number 1 is an amazing administrative person. I'm never going to get away from that. When you expand a business, all you're really expanding are the talents and the systems and the administrative side, period. And number 2, someone who fills your soul. And this is going to sound a little sappy, but here's what I know. The road of entrepreneurship is a lonely one. It just is, especially if you're the owner and heavy is the head that wears that crown. You need to have someone filling up your business life with models and systems, and then someone filling your soul with either joy or camaraderie. Because if you try to walk down this thing alone, what you're going to find is you grab different people along the trail, and you don't end up with any one person who knows where you began and knows where you're headed. And you end up going askew all over the place. For me, it's always been a coach. It's been a mentor. It's Steve. You've been that guy for me for the last decade. Everyone's going to have to go find their own person. But I'll tell you this, if you don't find them, the odds of you getting to where you want to go are relatively low.
I love this. And I think on the phone, I spent some time, Jason, you were in our mastermind, our group mastermind 2 weeks ago. I think the new realtor mindset is going to have 3 things you have to have in it. First one is EQ, which is Jason's been talking about, emotional IQ. Are you relating to people? Do you understand this market of the moment? Are you empathetic? That's going to be more critical than ever. And by the way, it's a competitive advantage for realtors over iBuyers, disruptors, and tech. Number 2, you have to be MQ, market IQ, market intelligence. What are you? You should take data and spend literally 1 to 2 hours a day making sure you understand it so you can explain feature, advantage, and benefit to your network. Knowing the market of the moment will always differentiate a realtor. Number 3, and most important maybe, TQ, having a technology IQ about what you're going to have going forward. Jay, if we ask you, give folks on the phone the 3 pieces of tech they have to have, whether it's video on FaceTime, whether it's, ACRM of some kind, whether that's Command or Boomtown or Simplest or whatever. What 3 pieces of tech do you think every realtor has to have that's talking here?
Candidly, I'm a little biased, right? I tend to think if you're a Keller Williams agent, and we have a lot of them on this call, I think that you really need to be in command. If for nothing more, then you can completely eliminate the cost of third-party technologies. And by the way, I'm not saying it's a one-size-fits-all prescription. I'm saying that there are certain portions of your business that you should be able to do. So here's the model every one of you should go through. Number 1, do it for your life, meaning take a sheet of paper, take a circle, put your name in it, and then start writing all of the different pieces of technology that you use in your daily life. Write the ones that you absolutely love first, and then write all the others. And if, by the way, if we did it together, what we'd all see, you'd see like Apple or Android, you'd see Mac, you'd see Amazon, you'd see Audible, you'd see those. If you think about it, the next step then is to simply go under each one of those and write what the monthly cost of that is. Then under that, write what the annual cost of it is. Then add up all of those annual costs, and you now know what your annual human tech spend is. By the way, don't forget about cable TV and cell phone. You're a human. Throw that Peloton $39 in, all of your tech. Then look up and see how big that number is on the personal side. The reason I think you should do this on the personal side is because some of you say you're not a tech person on the business side. Cool, you say that because you're detached from it. We're all tech people. Unless you're taking your clothes down to the stream to beat them clean, you're a tech person. You just use a washing machine. Same with the cell phone, same for the cars. We're all tech people. Once you do it for the personal, it's really easy. Then do the exact same thing for your business. Then on the right side of your paper, you're going to see your personal tech spend and you're going to see your business tech spend. Then you just go circle by circle and start asking the question, am I getting the most out of this? And by the way, There's some amazing third-party technology that you guys bought, and you usually buy it because you went to a seminar or you were in pain at the time and you bought it. But here's the cool thing. From the day you bought it to today, those companies have been innovating like crazy, meaning the company and the tech that you bought a year ago does not resemble the company and the tech that you bought today. However, most of your understanding is at a year ago. You should call every one of your current third-party tech providers and say, I want to set up a half hour this week and a half hour next week and a half hour the week after that for you to one-on-one show me all the new features that I'm not using because I don't know how to use them. You guys get that update on your cell phone and you upload it, and then you get the screens that want to teach you how to use it, and you're like, I don't care. I just want to make a call the way I know how to make a call. I get that, but you can't do that with your business tech. So I would absolutely do that. And then the other cool thing about having that drawing, Steve, you get to look up and actually hold those counts to a dollar account. Meaning you're going to look up your CRM with an ad spend is always going to be your highest expense. And that's cool because it might be your best return. But some of y'all are paying for tech you're not even using. Like you're paying for a Canva, or you're paying for a blank, or you're paying for Audible, but you haven't listened to a book in a year. Remove the judgment from it. And instead, just look at it as a roadmap, which is what it is. And then the key is to start finding the solutions that your brokers are providing. And every one of you, no matter where you're at, your brokers are providing some tech solutions. Start crossing off the stuff that you might be at parity or better than at your current place. And then keep the third-party stuff you love. But I'll tell you this, there's never going to be a replacement for having the best data, because in this business, she with the best data always wins.
Data is the new dollar, my brother. If you don't have good data, it doesn't. That's why we love Ivy. It's the best. It's what the best agents use in the world. Jay, you had a good question earlier. iBuyers, what's your take on them? Where do you see them? Some people say, oh, they're going away. I've got a little bit of intel here I'll share too, but what's your take on iBuyers in the Nevada market?
I think that the consumer has spoken loud and clear that they want options and they want a consultative approach to real estate. If you're not going to be subscribing to that idea, then you are going to lose. The question will be, do you lose big or do you lose small? And the truth is, I think you'll lose small, meaning I think you'll lose so slowly that you actually convince yourself that you're winning. And then one day you'll look up and realize that your market share is decreasing. And so I think that iBuyer plays a really interesting part, which is the vast majority of people that talk about getting an iBuyer offer become a traditional listing. And if you use it like a tool, and if you use it as another thing in your toolbox to educate the consumer, here's the thing. If your compass was, is this a good option for the consumer? And that's how you looked at everything, the more options you give them, the better off you're going to be.
So well said and true. Let me be clear. Speed, convenience, virtuality is not going away in the new world. It's all going to get bigger. Be the provider of options. Be the options dealer so that you can be the one they call, because you're the only one as a realtor that's the fiduciary. No disrespect to OfferPad, but they're there to get OfferPad's best offer. You're there to say to the consumer, well, listen, it's about 19,000 below market, but it's also a 10-day close. So what's more important, time or money? If you say you want equity, we can take this to market, give me 45 days, we can get you 18 to 20,000 more in equity. But if you want to right now be done with this, we can do that too, whatever best suits you and your family, and then shut up and let the consumer lead where they go. Those are the ones that are winning the most. Jason, you and I remember the guys that told us in 08, 09, I'll never do a short sale. I don't want that crappy business. Those same agents were begging you and me to put them together with a loss mitigator or an asset manager a year later because they missed the market of the moment. Don't do that here. In Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Orlando, Texas, it's going to continue to grow. You're going to see consolidation, but they're going to keep buying homes for cash. Wall Street's not going away. That much is true.
Yeah, I'm actually really proud of that. You know, you saw a lot of them, and I'm making no judgment. They kind of pumped their brakes and made sure they reassess and all these things. I'm really proud that Keller Offers was able to maintain and continue to make offers on homes this entire time. We didn't pause anything. And here's what I would tell you as an agent. When you look up and you start really asking yourself a fundamental question, which is what's in the best interest of the consumer, is if you asked that about everything you were doing, you'd win. Because the consumer is going to get what they want. If you can provide it to them faster, more efficiently, easier than everybody else in your market, that's how you end up dominating. And so not having a tool in the box when someone else might, that doesn't make any sense.
No, and then you add, now you're likable, now you've got knowledge, now you understand the market better. Those are all, then it becomes an easy game for you to win, and you're basically using their tool to benefit your business, which is the whole goal here. You hit on it, Jay. 88% of people that submit an iBuyer offer end up going retail because equity outweighs convenience at this stage.
That's absolutely right. But by the way, equity only outweighs convenience when they know they have equity. And so if you leave it to some website to tell your consumer what they have and what they don't have, then you have really turned your back on humanity. It's when you sit there and you're the one that interprets the information. You got to remember, having the data is the first step. It's interpreting it and teaching it. In a way, all of you guys are teachers. You just choose to do it in the classroom of life as opposed to a university. That's what makes realtors so special.
I know you coach 100 plus teams now across the nation. I hear all these stories about, oh, it's, social media is a good way to get. Give me the top 3 ways. I'm still seeing, Jason, the phone is still the best way to get in touch with people. That's still the fastest, cheapest, most effective, because that's why people want phone numbers, which is why data is more important than ever. Walk us through kind of how your teams, how your people are communicating today, and what's the number 1, 2, and 3 modes of communication where you're getting answer rates and availability?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm using the phone. That's my weapon of choice. It always has been, mainly because the technology hasn't really changed since Ma Bell. Meaning, like, it's possible that any one social media platform could change its algorithmic approach, and I'm not really willing to be at that kind of peril. The phone has worked the way that it works for a long time, and I'm betting that it's going to continue. It puts me in the most people at scale at any point, and I can change the data at any point. That said, if you're going to use Facebook, you all got to use the superpowers that are in your data bank right now. You got to look around and say, who are the superheroes that I have in my data bank? And then you got to start doing 5 to 10 minute interviews with them right now. This is you interviewing a nurse at your local hospital and not letting everyone hear national news, but you seize the moment on local news. This is you. If you have a personal trainer, do a 10-minute interview. I'm not the only one overeating during this thing. Look at Jeff. Like, this is that moment when, like, your people need to hear from your superheroes. You got a chef in there? Do a great one on how to freeze food. I'm not the only one panic buying. They're reading articles that there's going to be an interruption in the meat supply chain. Do an interview on how to freeze meat. People need to see that. Ladies, people are cutting their own hair. This is real.
Whoa.
It's happening. People are cutting their own hair. Like, if you have a stylist in there, do an interview. Or ladies, y'all are putting this powder on your nails. You can't get it off without a construction crew and a foreman. Like, interview a manicurist and save someone's nail beds. Teach them about the foil. Y'all know what I guess what I'm saying is realtors solve people's problems. So make a list of what all the problems of today are, because they're really funny and they're new and they're kind of absurd. And then get the people in your data bank to solve those problems. You want to talk about small business stimulus. That's a small business stimulus plan, which is I'm going to interview 10 of the small business owners in my market, and I'm going to let them talk about how to support their company. Then I'm going to do a mass email for each one and a mass text message to my data bank. And then in return, what I want is when we open these stores back up, you let me leave my real estate 2-page newsletter in your store once a month for the next 12 months. You guys, you could save a business today and then be omnipresent in all the mom and pop shops in your market for the next year. These are the kind of opportunities that are created by this destabilization in society, but they're only there if you take advantage of them.
Well, let's be honest, execution trumps knowledge every day of the week. We have to execute something. Had a really good question, Jay, about with using IB data, do you recommend circle prospecting? I'll tell you the top 3, but why don't you say first how you're using IB in your world that gets you the greatest return. I'll give you the top 3 usages so far that agents are using across the 2,000 agent network.
Look, I like the vacant homes list. I like the non-owner occupied list, especially right now. I think non-owner occupied is the way to go. And then I still like getting people that have been in their home for a period of time. You give me someone who's owned their home for 6 years. I give you someone who's thinking about renovating a kitchen. You give me someone who's been in their home 25 years. I give you someone who's leaving one way or the other over the next 15. And I'm just telling you, like, I think circle prospecting is great if the alternative is not doing anything. Meaning, when I got into the business, they gave me a phone book and they said, by the time you'll get to the C's, you'll have a deal. Cool. You could, by the way, that model still works. It's a guarantee. But I think that the data can let us be a little more surgical than that, Steve.
I agree with that. And I also think the reality is the most ordered data today are non-owner occupieds, because with forbearance in play, those folks are more open. Number two, circle prospecting is great. In Vegas, if I'm doing 350 and below, it's a great story. We have more buyers than we had listings. We just sold, our broker just sold a home, or this home just sold. Remember, you can get very detailed, like-minded, like around it. You'll see when you pull the data, do they have equity or not? What's their loan amount? How much is in it? So make sure that you're thinking about finding a way to have a good conversation. That's when you circle prospect. But Jason, here's the thing, you already said it. If you pull the data, just make calls. Even if it's the Adele script, if every 10 people you call, 6 to 8 are going to actually answer now. You're going to have a conversation. You'll find a deal in 200 pulls, guaranteed.
Yeah, the problem is like the human mind. By the way, here's the thing. You've heard nothing new here. It's been an hour. Like you've heard nothing new. And here's why. And here's why you're fighting it. And you can't help yourself. The part of your brain that takes in information and then weighs it against human experience has about 17 billion neurons in it. To put that into like some sort of comparable analysis for you, a chimpanzee has the same part of the brain, but there's about 9 billion neurons in it. That's why y'all are who y'all are. But the problem with it is that your brain won't hold on to a simple solution. Instead, it tries to find a complicated solution. It refuses to believe that all success is found in simplicity. It refuses to believe that simply making phone calls over time can lead to the financial freedom that you want. It refuses to believe that the answer to the complex problem that you face is simply calling and talking to more people on a human basis. And so because of that, we fight and we claw and we scratch and we beg for a more complicated answer. And then you hear a speaker who tells it to you how it is, and you say, wow, that really resonated with me, or wow, I had an insight. And the truth is you didn't have any insights. That would be an outsight if you heard something from outside and then brought it in. Everything you already need right now, you already know. It's all inside of you. You were born with it. You've all experienced it. All we are right now is tour guides trying to help you find a piece of it. You know what we're saying is true. I just beg you to stop fighting it. And if you didn't do the call yesterday, I get it. By the way, you don't have to do it today. But my gosh, please start tomorrow with 5 or 10, and then every day do the same 5 or 10. Nobody gets in shape overnight. I promise.
I love it. I love it. All right. We've got some Go Vegas chats going on about when the Raiders start and when the casinos open and everything else. I'll tell you, in Arizona and Texas, where I spend a lot of time, they've opened a little bit earlier than this. People have been aggressively attending things, which tells you the American psyche is people want to get back in the marketplace. So that is going to happen. I believe in Las Vegas, and Jay, I'll just share your thoughts here. People can start to now have real estate discussions. Have empathy, have a consciousness of the environment we're in, but start having we couldn't have done it 4 weeks ago. It was crazy. It was too raw. Now you can. The ones that started are the ones that are going to be closing transactions in the next 3, 4, 5 months. Realtor.com traffic in Las Vegas is up almost 50% over the last 6 weeks. People are looking. They believe there's deals there. You've got too much going for you. People are going to come in. So be in the real estate game. Thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think you just ask people. The question, still the most powerful question of all of it is, what's your real estate plan for 2020? And that was the best question to ask prior to all this. Now it's a really good question to ask, because you're asking pretty much, did anything change? If you ask people, what's your real estate plan for 2020? They can only answer it one of 3 ways. Number one, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. We're actually going to be doing something now. Number two, it's interesting you ask, because in December or in September, and they have to put themselves in the box of the rest of 2020, or they say, we didn't have any real estate plans for 2020. Said differently, hot, nurture, watch. You've just divided everyone you've spoken to into 3 different buckets. Once you know which bucket they're in, then you can govern the frequency and intensity by which you follow up with them. Once you have that, you are so close to being financially independent. And some of you are saying, I've been financially independent since I was 18. No, you haven't. You haven't. Not if you're waiting for a transaction to close. You're more dependent now than ever. I'm talking about the kind of dependent that only goes away when you have reliability. And reliability only comes with active sales pipeline, which only comes with long-term follow-up. And here's the thing. You're either going to start it today or you're going to wait and you're going to start it later if you're ever actually going to not be dependent anymore. And I got to tell you, that's the fear. The pain is actually doing it. The freedom that you will have on the other side is like nothing you can imagine. It is the greatest thing. And every one of you can have it.
What he's talking about is a recurring revenue real estate business. That's what our teams have, because they can look in their database of 15, 20, 30. Some of our teams, you know, you have 100,000 people in their database getting 92,000 property searches, whether it be seller updates or property deliveries, that they're telling, and they can see activity knowing this person's moved from nurture to hot. This person's moved from hot to the next 90 days. But if you don't have a system with which to contact, communicate, and more importantly, track what that activity is telling you, you don't know where your business is. It's like having a map of Detroit, but you're in Dallas. You're still lost.
100%.
That's what's got to change.
Well, and Brett Tanner taught me, he said there's 3 documents that every realtor needs. You need a P&L, and all that is a way to look back at every financial decision you made and decide if it was a good one. It's a time machine that takes you backwards. Then you need your active listings and active buyers. That's your present. That's where I am today. Then you need the active sales pipeline, which is what we're talking about right now. That's the time machine that takes you into the future. And those, the truth is most of us are missing one of the 3 or 2 of the 3. Or some of you are saying, oh shit, I don't have any of the 3. By the way, that's not the problem. The problem would be waking up tomorrow and then not making any steps towards having all of them. Like, that's the thing. I heard this, Steve. I'd love to get your take on this the other day. And this was really controversial when I heard it. And I got really angry when I heard it. And it was really tough, but I thought about it. And you're not going to like it. You're going to get angry in a minute. I'm just going to foreshadow.
Good.
It's going to hit really close to home for you. This gentleman was doing an interview, and he said, you know, the only reason, there's only one that Kobe isn't with us today. And that's because that pilot didn't turn the plane around when he realized that it was too foggy, or he didn't realize it. It's the only reason. And he went on to say that that was either A, a failure in the pilot's judgment, or B, a failure in having the right information in front of him to make the decision. And everyone in the room got angry at this speaker. And because it got real weird. But I'll tell you what, man, when I was thinking about that, like, life is going to throw a lot of stuff at us. And if you see a change, but you fail to actually make one, that's when tragedy happens.
One of the reasons I love you so much, not just because of who you are as a person, but you and I have this rule. Quit listening to people that have never sold real estate in 30 years. Quit finding the script you want to follow from some idiot that in 10 years has sold 8 properties. Jason Abrams' team will sell $100 million in real estate this year for the 19th year in a row. He coaches actively. He's in the marketplace. He's in the field. Practitioners should be followed, not pundits. And I don't know why in real estate, but there are tons of pundits. Most go, I talked to so-and-so. When's the last time he sold a house? Is always my first question. You and I always laugh because people will come, so-and-so said to do this. He hasn't sold a house in a decade. How would he know? Jason sold 4 this week. Trust me, he knows. So where you go get your guidance from matters, correct? Where do you go, Jason? What books are you reading? Where do you go to get your knowledge today?
That's a great question. I am reading right now. I got The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni on my desk. By the way, guys, if you're not reading, you're missing out. Like you got to do it. So Patrick Lencioni, The Advantage, I absolutely love it. That's how I'm feeding my business mind. And The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, that's how I'm feeling my soul. And I'm going to tell you, I've never really been into all that, but this is part of me setting that 90-day vision for my life and my family, which was, I have to fill my business mind, but I got to fill my soul right now. And you got to find something that does it, because these are really unique times. We're not made to sit in 8x12 rooms for 9 hours a day. That's just not, we're psychologically not created that way.
Well, if it wasn't for you, I'd be zoomed out right now. I'm tired of Zoom. I want to do live discussion.
I'll tell you. Well, so here's the difference, right? your soul can kind of be empty when things are booming because you don't have time to sit around and think about it. Like that's just ends up what happened. But you guys, you're going to have to fill it with ideas and with things because you have these blank spaces that don't become vibrant until you put new ideas into them. That's why this is the Oval Office and this is the Oval Office. When you fill your soul, you end up filling that office space. This book, The Untethered Soul, it's fantastic.
I want to just give a book shout out if you could. Everything is Figure-Outable by Marie Forleo. It's fantastic. It's very relevant to right now. It's a short, great read. The average millionaire in the United States reads 2 books a month. That's the reality.
Yeah, and then I'm reading Shift. I mean, look, the guys, life is an open book test. If you don't open the book, that's on you. This is one that talks about how to get through market change. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you cannot have the textbook next to you.
Totally got it. All right. Jeff, any questions we're missing so far?
No, I think we got most of those. Jason, we have one from from Jeremy talking about making a big change and whether his thoughts on a brokerage like KW or going into independent brokerage.
You know,
what's your thought on brokerage management? Now, obviously, we'll give.
I mean, like full disclosure, I'm the vice president of industry for Keller Williams, right? So like, I'm a little jaded on this. I'll tell you though.
You should answer this question.
Well, I mean, I'll give you the real answer for it, right? Our industry has 2 very, very important and vibrant, but very different cohorts. We got about 750,000 people that associate with a franchise, and we have about 750,000 that associate with an independent, which means that our independent brothers and sisters are as important in our NAR family to our franchise brothers and sisters. The question isn't which to affiliate with. And in my experience, when you ask the wrong question, you always get the wrong answer. The right question is, where do you want to be in 5 years? Get really clear on where you are today and then where you want to be. Absent of doing that, then every single brokerage house, whether independent or franchise, it's all a conversation about tactics, devoid of strategy. Meaning anyone that tells you they know the answer to where you should be before knowing where it is that you want to be as an individual in 5 years is simply trying to recruit you. And you know what? That's not how you care about people. So once you know where it is that you want to go, you should make a list of the tools by which you think to get there you will need. Then you should simply go out and you should ask yourself, do I like to have these tools and curate them on my own? Or would I like to have these tools and does the scale match at a franchise? And once you answer those questions, then you should go out and you should interview all of them. And at the end of the day, and only at the end of the day, should you then make the decision between the 2.
Well said. I will say this. I get to Mastermind with 200 agents all over $100 million across 42 states. They're in 71 brokerages. Here's what I've learned. You pick a tribe, not a brokerage. You pick the people you want to interact and or learn from and or work with and or work for. You don't pick a brokerage. You pick the tribe. Because as Jason will tell you, Keller Williams has a fantastic tribe, right? And if you like that tribe in there, do it. I've got great people that are at, Coldwell Banker. I got great people at Remax, etc. So yeah. Find a tribe you want to affiliate with that has your set of values, has knowledge, has a value proposition you like and trust. Follow the tribe first, not just the brokerage.
But hey, please, wherever you end up, whether it's independent or it's at a friend, wherever you go, please talk highly of all other real estate agents and all other brands. This is not the time to be divided by brick and mortar or virtual walls or anything stupid. Please speak highly of every realtor everywhere, because keep in mind, while we're all walking around trying to figure out which brokerage house we might want to be at, there's an entire world of third-party companies who have a design about no realtors at all. They not only want to remove you from the center of the transaction, but they want to put every single one of us out of business. And they aim to use technology and consumer sentiment to do it. And every time we make a Facebook post trying to tear someone down, we breathe life into that movement. And those are the only people that I have a real problem with, and I will meet you at the gates any day because you put all of us in danger.
I love that. Hey, you and I spoke a couple weeks ago at our mastermind about the importance now of ancillary partners, because now you've got some mortgage companies that aren't going to make it, some title companies not going to make it. We talked a lot about picking partners that actually will add value to your business, not just close your loan or close your mortgage. Talk about how you view affiliate vendors versus what you consider partners and how you've done that in your business?
I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made for a lot of years in my business was I wasn't really partners with my affiliates. I was kind of like passengers, right? There's this passengership thing that happens, which is we get comfortable in some level of service that we're willing to provide. And then we just kind of go along until there's a problem. And then we have this weird conflict that happens. Partnership is a whole different thing for me. Partnership is when I look up and say, I want my business to grow and I want it to happen faster. In order to do that, I need a couple of things if I'm going to be in real estate. Number one, I need to have access to a really consumer-friendly, simple way to do mortgage and finance that has a fiduciary pull to it. That's just what you have to have that. And then number two, I'm going to have a title entity that does a couple of things. And the truth is closing the transaction is just one of those things. I need to have visibility into the data that makes my community vibrant real estate wise. I need to have visibility into the technologies and I need to be on the forefront. I need to have the educational component. And the truth is, none of us, whether you sell 700 homes a year or 1,700, none of you have enough market data to really see trends. Those trends are only seen by folks like Julie who do, 6,000 transactions in any given quarter. And to be honest with you, my business personally would never have grown had it not been for my relationship with you and Julie. And I can look up now and I'm really honest about that, mainly because real estate is a local business driven by local relationships and title is a local business driven by national relationships. And that's really the change.
All right. I'm conscious of your time and you've been so good. Let me ask you this, Jay. If we're looking back a year from now, give me one thing that you'd have a regret about if you're an agent and didn't do, and give me one thing that if you did it, the win would be X or Y. We're just crystal balling here a sec.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse. This is that moment in time where the calls you make today are worth 10 of the calls you made yesterday. You're either going to look up and you're going to have a big boom happening in your business or you're not. And it will be defined over how you spend the next 90 days. And I know that sounds so grandiose, but it's the gosh honest truth. Pick up the phone, go until it hurts. I was watching, I don't know, I'm sure you have, but I think one of the greatest documentaries is this Michael Jordan thing that's going on.
Come on, man. That's my guy.
I know it is. And I've been loving it. And it's really, for me, it's been an interesting cross section because we saw all of these great tribute visits.
Well, you lived in Detroit, my brother.
I know it. But this is what I'm going to get at. We saw all these great tribute videos for Kobe for a terrible reason. And we started to watch his work ethic and we heard all these amazing stories. Like he went to the gym and was working out and another player was in there and he kept going and there was no way that he was going to stop working out before that other guy did just to get in his head and like all of these things. And then we heard Michael say the same thing. And then we've heard Isaiah Thomas say the same thing. And here's what, there's three things across all of these amazing basketball players that I'm watching. And number one, it's work velocity. Meaning no one was going to outwork these guys at any point. Number two, it's this competitive streak, whether they're walking, who's going to get in the door first, or who's going to score the more points, or who's going to win at golf, or do you play 36 holes or 18? They were going to compete in everything that they did like it was game 7. And then the third thing, and it's amazing to me, these guys are all educationally based. You hear story after story of how they sought each other out and Kobe could keep up with MJ as a mentor, but so many other people couldn't. And you watch this and then you look up and I remember what you taught me. You said, Jason, the top realtors, they have work velocity, they have likability, and they're educationally based. I mean to tell you, this might not just be the secret to real estate, Steve. It might be the secret to life in that order.
Winning has a price. The price you must pay is a humble and a willingness to learn, a work velocity that you flat out will not let somebody outwork you. That's in your control. You might not be the smartest person, you might not be the most attractive or the best talker, but no one should be able to outwork you. And then 3, work at liking people, because we're in the people business. People do business with people they like always. All right, give me one thing that you look back, and folks in this call, here's what will happen. We have 100 people that signed up to be here. Jason, you and I know this. Half of you will not take 200 free ID polls. You can say, here's an address. Give me 200 circles. Here's my zip code. Give me 200, non-occupied. You can do anything you want to, and it's free because you, Chris, Julia, Jocelyn paid for it. I'm confused why people don't do it. Why was it? You tell me, why don't they do it? You're running a huge real estate company. Why?
I don't know. To be candid with you, I kind of got past the confusion and the anger about it, and I've turned into a humanist. This is to say that I love everybody and I make no judgment. And here's what I know. For all of human frailty, at different points in everybody's life, everybody does what's most necessary for them. That's called the law of necessity. This might be the moment where hearing some of this stuff today has been most necessary for you, and you're going to go take action. And then again, it probably won't be judged by the percentages, meaning you'll turn this off, and every step you get away from your desktop or laptop computer will be a step away from anything that you heard today. And so candidly, I'm not fighting for all 100 of you. I'm fighting for 2 of you. And the 2 of you out there that are hearing this at the moment that you need to, this was just for you. And that's how I sleep at night, Steve.
Man, this is a softer Jason Abrams than the guy I heard chewing on his 34-person team and saying, I'm going to get rid of the bottom third by tomorrow if you don't make these calls. But I love it, and that's probably time and place, and we all grow, and that's great. All right.
Yeah, keep in mind, we're still going to do that tomorrow. Like, everybody gets to say when, but you don't get to say when for me.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Well, and here's the thing. Here's what I've learned, and this is where I come from. A certain amount will do it. Those are the folks we should pour into. Those are the folks we should overtrain, overcoach, overassist, overindulge time with, because you can lead a horse to water, you can't make anybody drink it. The people that actively do it are the ones you pour into, the ones that take triggers. The ones that don't, it's not their time, or they're not ready, or they never will. It's one of those 3.
Yeah,
okay?
You can't save anybody, right?
No, you can't save people from themselves. That does not work. They got to make that choice. All right, in closing, first of all, we would like to say this. Can we please get an amazing golf clap, round of applause from Mr. Abrams, who's just an absolute stud. Love you, boy. You're awesome. Mr. Binney, our sponsor, our partner, our mortgage guru. Chris, thank you so much for your support. We love you, brother. Some things that are going to happen now, which I think are important. Julie, Jocelyn, and Chris are going to send out to you this video. So we're going to re-record it. We're going to give it to you. If you want to watch it again, please feel free to do that. That would make sense. Number 2, we're going to get your free data pulls from Ivy. All you have to do is respond, and Joss and Jules and Chris will make sure you have that out to you. Get that taken care of. Number 3, you saw Jason mention iBuyers. The #1 certification in the United States for learning how to work with them and generate listings is IREP. IREP, because of this call, is giving everybody on this call a free, you can become a free IREP member for this month only, so you've only got about 3 weeks left, so Josh will have that go out on this as well. All of this was delivered to you by people who are trying to drive value. Now it comes down to who executes and who actions. Julie, Josh, Chris, anything else you want to close it for? Let everybody get back to work.
Oh, I just want to say thank you. And I want to say I just had a great success story with Ivy. Shout out one of our agents in our I think one of his team members are actually on this call now, reached out for owner information on 2 condos. We pulled it through Ivy last night. Mike and Jocelyn, you pulled it for me. And we got 3 email addresses, 4 cell phone numbers, actually listing both condos this morning. So phenomenal data. It crushes everything.
Well, sorry,
You
mean they took action? They called
Yes.
and emailed and got 2 listings that'll generate $12,000-$15,000 in commission.
Correct.
Weird. Execution trumps knowledge.
Yeah.
Period. Everybody, love you. Be good. Be safe. Be healthy. See you soon. Thanks everyone very much.
Jason.
Appreciate it.
I love you. Thank you.
Absolutely.